Stars can be born within a matter of seconds inside that octagon, and though the MMA world indeed moves fast, we're here to give you some insight into 10 of the standout candidates for future superstardom under the UFC banner. Number 10. Kevin Holland. Look, we know as well as anyone that Kevin Holland is far from the finished article. Hell, he's not even well-rounded enough to be considered a top prospect anymore. But if we're talking about breakthrough stars for the UFC, Holland's big mouth may well make him one of the biggest fan favorites of his era. This guy just talks and talks and talks inside that octagon. And over the course of his time spent in the UFC, the promotion's social media accounts have been gifted with viral clip after viral clip of this guy talking to both his opponents and the cage-side commentators while in the middle of a high-intensity battle. Sure, his wrestling needs work, and it's not entirely clear just how far he can go. But if you want to talk about upcoming stars in this sport, Kevin Holland is a good way to kick things off, because he certainly brings something completely unique to the table. Number 9. Umar Nurmagomedov. The cousin of Khabib Nurmagomedov, Umar, managed to cap off a hugely impressive recent UFC debut with a rear-naked choke finish of Sergey Morozov that drew to mind memories of Khabib's own UFC debut back in 2012. And while he is certainly cut from the same cloth as his cousin in more ways than one, Umar, as a bantamweight, brings to the table a much greater emphasis on his kicking game. When you couple that with his already excellent skills on the mat, it's pretty clear to see that the 135-pound division has a hugely intriguing talent on their hands with this guy. As you would expect, given Khabib's massive support across the globe, Umar's UFC debut was a hugely anticipated moment for the Dagestani takeover of the sport. And when you consider just how well it went, it's pretty to see why many people are pegging this young man as a future star for the company. Number 8. Miranda Maverick. A narrow split decision defeat at the hands of Macy Barber isn't enough to derail this prospect's hype train in our eyes. Miranda Maverick, by all accounts, should have gotten her hand raised against Barber on that night, bringing a strong start to the table over the course of the opening 2 rounds that was likely enough to get the job done. But alas, despite this defeat and the work that she needs to do on her stamina management, Miranda Maverick, at 24 years old, is as talented a prospect as the women's flyweight division has seen in years. And sure, Valentina Shevchenko is perhaps the most dominant champion in MMA today, but time is most certainly on Miranda Maverick's side. And if she can rebound successfully, don't be surprised to see her popularity grow as she attempts to crack the division's top 10. Number 7. Tom Aspinall. He looks the part, he has an infectious personality, and he just so happens to have the fastest hands in the heavyweight division at present. Tom Aspinall is the real deal, folks, with some incredibly sharp boxing technique coupled with fearsome knockout power. If you're looking for the next contender to the heavyweight title, look no further than this English standout. For years, it seemed as though the division's old guard were never going to be moved aside. The Overeems, the Verdums, the Arlovskis. However, with the arrival of Francis Ngannou and later Cyril Gane, it's clear that the floodgates are being opened for the next wave of talents. And right at the forefront of that wave, expect to see Tom Aspinall making some serious impact. Trust us, this guy is going places, both inside the octagon and beyond. Number 6. Shavkat Rakhmanov. If you want to talk about one of the greatest prospects in the sport right now at any weight class, look no further than the Kazakhstan welterweight Shavkat Rakhmanov, a scintillating striker who brings an incredibly well-rounded skill set to the table. This guy was not given an easy road within the UFC, debuting against the veteran fan favorite Alex Cowboy Oliveira before going up against the incredibly tricky Michel Prazeres. As you would expect, he won both fights with major style points, submitting each man after unloading some of his expert stand-up on the feet. At 26 years old and with a professional record of 14-0, it's only a matter of time before the world catches on to just how good this guy is. You heard it here first. Shavkat Rakhmanov is a name that will be known to all MMA fans within the next year or two. Number 5. Andre Muniz. If there's one constant that always pops up consistently through the history of combat sports, it's that fans simply love a fighter who can predict their successes to a T. And for the middleweight contender Andre Muniz, he made one of the most outlandish pre-fight predictions of all time, telling the world he was going to submit the legendary BJJ master Ronaldo Jacare Souza despite his opponent being one of the greatest grapplers in MMA history. That in itself shows boldness, it shows bravado, but getting in there and pulling it off is another thing entirely. And yet, when the fight night came around, Muniz made good on his promise, shocking the world by snapping Jacare's arm in the very first round. Seriously, Andre Muniz had absolutely no right to find a submission on Souza, never mind break his arm. Sure, the Brazilian was an aging veteran and over the hill to some extent, but as far as breakout performances go, Muniz's was enough to earn him a spot on our list. Number 4, Paddy Pimblett. Supposedly, it's impossible to knock out a Scouser, or at least that's the opinion turned in by the UFC's latest high-profile acquisition. Though a star in the European scene for years now, Paddy Pimblett's UFC debut saw him well and truly deliver the goods, brawling his way to a stunning first-round knockout. And in that bout, while Pimblett was indeed tagged, showing questionable striking defense, the way he rallied and secured the win made fans by the thousands. He definitely has a lot to work on, but the guy's charisma is as clear as day, and once you navigate your way through that strong Liverpool accent, Paddy Pimblett is likely to cause laughs. That much is certain. Number 3, Sean O'Malley. Though he hovers around the edge of the 135-pound top 15, Sean O'Malley's ascent to the top of the division's pile has indeed been a slow one. Sure, injuries, suspensions, and odd matchmaking are to blame, but there isn't a more well-known and divisive unranked fighter in the sport than this dynamic standout. No one can deny this man's skills. O'Malley is an artist in there at times. However, it's pretty clear that the biggest challenges lie in Sugar Sean's future, as he attempts to make good on his obvious potential, while taking a step into the elite upper echelon of one of the sport's greatest divisions. Indeed, he has the look, the attitude, and the successful podcast to show for it. But when it comes to the next year or two of Sean O'Malley's career, chances are we'll know a lot more about his merits as a genuine title threat before too long. Number 2, Islam Makhachev. He's not quite there yet, but boy is he getting close. The slow rise of Islam Makhachev is a testament to just how difficult of a matchup he is for the current lightweight crop. Avoided as any fighter on the roster, Makhachev has been forced to make a very stunted climb through the UFC's most exciting division. Contender by contender, test by test, he continues to showcase his elite grappling game, mirroring his longtime friend and training partner Khabib Nurmagomedov in certain moments. And while he is already a big star in his home of Dagestan, and known to MMA fans across the world, if Islam can, in fact, capture UFC gold, there's every chance that he takes his status to another level entirely, becoming a global sensation in the process. The real tests of his Sambo mastery lie ahead, but based on what we've seen so far, Islam Makhachev appears to be the real deal. Number 1, Khamzat Chimaev. Is it fair to call Khamzat Chimaev a rising star? Well, although he's already among the UFC's most recognizable faces due to his global magnetism and overall attitude, his recent stint of inactivity has left his future up in the air to some extent. After a rough battle with COVID-19, Khamzat's rapid progression through the UFC ranks was brought to an almighty halt just prior to a massive step up in competition against Leon Edwards. And though some athletes get COVID and recover, there were some serious questions about this Chechnyan welterweight's ability to get back into shape, with worrying reports emerging from his camp. Thankfully, he appears to be over the worst of it, and with an eye on a return against the fan favorite Li Jingliang. The opportunity is there for Khamzat to finally make good on all of the promise he has shown during his short UFC run up to this point.